Crooked DAs who are intentionally crooked. Not an accident. I'm taking my hat off for you people who hung in and tuned in tonight. Today is Friday, all day, on the 16th of June. I have a guest tonight who's come a long way, 200 miles one way, from Orange County, California, to be here in the studio. I want you, please, people, welcome to the show, Gar.
Thank you, William.
Gar, are you glad to be here?
Absolutely.
Are you glad the cops didn't just kill you?
Well, I'm certainly glad of that, I can tell you that.
Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure.
I've been a thorn in their side in Orange County for a number of years.
You
so
think that's what
appropriate.
led to your DUI arrest?
Actually, I believe so. There were several things that were occurring at the time that were of interest to the County of Orange. One was I was acting as power of attorney for my elderly mother who had a serious catastrophic injury due to a construction defect by the County of Orange, and it caused her to have 4 plates in her face, lifetime damage, and trying to take care of my elderly parents. I got power of attorney to get the proper legal counsel. Well, that legal counsel ended up playing ball with Southern California Edison and the County of Orange to cheat my parents, and then they tried to drive me off by saying I was practicing or leading up to practicing law without a license, which was phony. So they're trying to stop me from making sure they didn't get taken advantage of, which they did get taken advantage of in the end.
Did you know at that time, did you know that the Supreme Court has held that it is your common right to practice common law? You didn't know that?
I didn't know it. No, I didn't know it.
You know it now?
I know it now, and it didn't stop me, but they were putting the threats on me.
Yeah,
Intimidation and so forth. Now, the other things that were going on, there's a couple interesting things that were going on. I had unique access to, as a board member for Pathway to Prosperity, 501c3 in Orange County. And with that organization, I traveled to Fiji to address human rights with the Prime Minister of Fiji, Frank Bainimarama, and also the Attorneys General of Fiji, Ayaz Syed Qayyum. And I had unique access through friends and connections, and it just worked out where I was able to gain access and build a bridge. But Fiji was under U.S. sanctions at the time, and there were some powers that didn't want me in there because there was press coverage in Fiji of the Prime Minister engaging in human rights, and it made him look good, and the United States was trying to not make him look good at the time. So there was blowback in Orange County when I got back, and my partners got back from Fiji, and they started doing some dirty tricks, and we were able to stop that. This preceded what occurred in that false DUI arrest. So we had the lawsuit from the county, and we had the Fiji intelligence domestically and the blowback from that.
So that's where that guy
And then the most important, I think, and why Rackauckus did what he did after the fact, the belated malicious filing of the first DUI that didn't take place, was because I wrote a screenplay called Zeroed Out, registered it with the WGA West in Los Angeles, and had attempted to make a film about Orange County corruption, particularly the Orange County District Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
And I received many threats, serious threats. I buried it for years.
How did you receive these threats? On the phone or by email? Or?
No, in person. I was next to a friend of mine, my attorney in Costa Mesa,
whose name was?
Philip Putman, who had filed a federal RICO and 10 judges, and Gottschalk worked with him, Ron Gottschalk. While I was having a salad over there, a person who identified himself as from Washington, D.C. and a military spook came up and used veiled language. He ordered a bunch of nachos. He didn't eat one nacho, and he engaged in an intimidation campaign and says, "Do not make that film." And he got up, paid for the nachos, didn't take one, and got out of there. I had a number of these experiences where they were trying to stop me from making a film.
Did he give you a name?
He gave me a name. I have it written down, but I don't have it in my memory right now. I've had so many things happening, but I could get it for you probably. The name he gave me, but he wouldn't give me a real name. But I can tell you this, that they didn't want that film made, even though I was making it inspired by a true film as opposed to based on a true film. The issues were so heavy in 2003 through 2004.
And this film was about?
This film was about a frame-up in the city of Irvine, supposedly the safest city in America, that involved Larry Agron and his city council and Tony Rackauckus and the Irvine Police Department in a frame-up situation. So that was a very dramatic situation
Who was being framed?
I was being framed and scapegoated when I was a victim of a crime.
And the crime was?
I was attacked by a particular cab driver and chased down and assaulted. It was all caught on camera, but they made the cameras vanish, and they manipulated things to change the location to a DOD contractor called Printronics, which was up the highway that had the same basic embankment. And they staged this thing, and I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going off the truth of where I was in that cab where I got assaulted. And they turned it upside down. They inverted it. And it's an interesting story. It was a hell on earth, but I did have a former U.S. attorney, Bob Throckmorton, helping me.
Right.
From the LA U.S. Attorney's Office. I had Ken Klein, who was a retired LAPD officer turned private investigator. My father, who you've met, who was involved in the Watergate affair in Orange County and helping to do some things there. And myself. And we unraveled exactly what they did, and we had the smoking gun and compelling proof of that. But the threats became so high that I took a strategic plea to exit because of the threats were... I was getting communication that the threats were of such a nature that I could not pursue.
And how long after this did the D.U.I. thing come up?
Well, it was quite a while. What happened is the federal RICO I had at that time, that was the last predicate act of that time of a federal RICO. Mm-hmm. RICO is 2 or more acts of a certain type in a 10-year window by the same parties, in this case acting under color of law and authority. Well, what happened is that I was so burnt out with PTSD and the war of attrition that I'd been through, and I couldn't mount up a big enough, resources and army to take this on, that I wrote it off, let the statute of limitations burn, and moved on, figuring that would be a life lesson. I'll tell my story later, And
you never got to tell your
story?
Well,
when I tried to bring it up and start it, 2008, this is classic. In March of 2008, I started to reshop the film. I thought enough time had passed to tell this important story about Orange County corruption and other things going on, and that particular experience. What happened is I got a hold of John W. Dean, who was Nixon White House head counsel, and we spoke for a length of time from his Rembrandt Lane, Beverly Hills home. And we discussed the issues around that affair, and that recently I'd gotten new threats to not make the film again, even though this is years later. And he gave me his thoughts, and then he said, I'm working on election fraud, and we're on the verge, in his opinion, of losing our republic if we do not clean up the election fraud problems in this country, which he was virulently involved with at that time. It was March 17th, 2008, 2 in the afternoon approximately. I have the phone records for that. But the point...
And John Dean said that.
Yeah, John Dean said that. And he knew the people my father worked with, David Young and Bruce Owens and so forth. And
it just strikes me as very odd. John Dean, who was intimately involved with the Nixon corruption and all that crap, he's now worried in 2008 about election fraud, but he wasn't worried about it when he had great power and great influence in the White House. What I was saying is John Dean wasn't worried about it back in 2000 and whatever, when Nixon was being impeached. He had a chance to do something right, and he sort of slid along with the corruption.
Well, it was as you know, when you get compressed in those situations, which are heavyweight, sometimes you want to do certain things you can't. I'm not speaking for John Dean, and nor am I. But I think as years.
Well, let's get him on here, and I'll ask him directly.
Well, I haven't talked to him in a while, so who knows where he is.
Should we call him now?
Well, I don't have his number.
Oh, darn.
On me, I didn't expect that. But I can tell you this.
You never know what to expect when you come on my show.
Well,
we the people want to know nothing but the truth, Carr.
Well, we want to know the truth. The question is, can we handle the truth? Will we respond to that truth?
So it comes down to...
They want to know about my political run.
So did you run for U.S. Senate to try to deal with this issue? Was that a reason you ran for U.S. Senate? There it is. Carr Myers.
That was in the Republican turf of Orange County, Costa del Sol. And I was the first speaker, and all the DAs and the people trying to become judges, and everybody was there, and it was really interesting, and it was a good experience.
Was Jim Gray there?
No, Jim Gray wasn't there. Paul Merritt was running next to me, and I really liked. Yeah, I campaigned for him during that. Him with that campaign.
Yeah, we had Jim Gray right here in your seat on this show when he ran. I just forget. I've been doing this so long, I forget how long it's been.
Yeah, I really like Judge Gray, and that's why I campaigned for him, yes.
But did you see the corruption in his campaign? He's a sitting judge running for U.S. Senate, and they said he didn't deserve to be included in the debates.
Right, I was there. Paul Moyer, I talked to him and the others outside of the L.A. Museum of Tolerance in L.A., and it was interesting. They were boxing him out when they shouldn't have boxed him out of that debate.
He should have been included in the debate.
Yes.
And they held Jim Gray, one of the nicest among the very few nicer judges that I ever met, is Jim Gray, a man of integrity. Unfortunately, retired from the bench out of Orange County now, so he's not a part of this horrible corruption going on there. So anyway, you did run for U.S. Senate partly to deal with these issues.
Yes, well, number one, I felt I'm worthy of representing people of California's federal and constitutional civil rights.
Well, you probably are.
I really am, and I knew that Kamala Harris,
more than the dingbats we had at that time.
Well, there's some good ones.
And the new dingbat we've got in there.
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris is unworthy to represent the people in this area.
She's a dingbat.
And I'm worthy, and so I was going on worthiness. I'm not talking about credentials or qualifications.
I think she's an illegitimate daughter of the gal that played Archie's wife in the sitcom.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, what did Archie call his wife? Did he call her a dingbat all the time?
Yeah.
I think Kamala Harris is the illegitimate offspring of Archie's television wife. Archie! Yeah. Oh, well, Archie!
It was really interesting.
She is so completely unqualified and so unscrupulous. I mean, you can just ask anybody who was part of the California 18. They will tell you Kamala Harris is an inside job person put in there to continue the bad stuff that Boxer and Feinstein have been doing, and Alan Cranston before them, and the senator before. We don't have any representation.
Well, I agree.
We don't have anybody that represents Gar here, or me, or you. There is nobody elected anymore. The corporations elect all the Congress. Ron Paul's out of there. Well, maybe they don't elect Rand Paul, but so there's 1 out of 100 senators that isn't owned by the bank gangsters and the criminals. That's not what I call representation.
Well, what you're going to find out about Kamala Harris, besides the lawsuits that are going on right now, are very significant.
Go ahead, spit it out.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, as far as her union donors, which gave her great power to be able to get elected.
Go ahead, spit it out, Rar.
Okay, they got preferential treatment where Kamala, as the Attorney General of California, took another private company and didn't give them a contract and gave it to her donors. And now that's in front of Judge Curiel in San Diego, who Trump had an issue with because of the referencing him as a Mexican. But the evidence is so strong that Curiel, who is liberal, who is...
Being liberal is not a crime.
No, I understand that, but he is in Kamala's camp as far as...
But it's not a crime. Being liberal is not a crime. It may be very stupid, but it's not a crime.
But what Curiel did is he couldn't stop because the substantive evidence in that case is so strong that it has to go to trial now, which is really interesting for Kamala.
Really?
Yes, it's going to trial.
When? Next month?
I don't know the exact timeline, but I know it was cleared and he couldn't stop it. If he could have stopped it, he would have stopped it, but there's too much in there. That of substance.
And it's going to trial in a federal court?
Yeah, federal court.
I got to go down there and see that.
So that's coming. And now she was involved in my frame-up, and she opposed my 144-page writ with all the evidence of my innocence in the DMV admin per se hearing. She stepped in. She stepped in as Attorney General of California on my alleged first DUI, no accident, no injury, nothing case.
Right.
Into a driver's license 4-month suspension hearing, nothing. The lowest of low, and she stepped in as Attorney General to oppose my writ after Tony Ricakakis committed a U.S. mail fraud to maliciously file to protect for underlying prior crime, and he backdated by 3 months, and there were never any charges.
Whoa.
It's a very serious matter, and I've been telling people for years.
Who backdated?
The Orange County District. I have the documents.
You mean this guy?
Yeah.
I call him Tony the Rat because I believe he's the head of the 5... not just the Gambino family, but all 5 major crime families in Orange County. He's their man. That's my earnest belief. There he is, the guy in the middle. And that gal over on his right, that's your current sheriff of Orange County, Hutchins, Sandra Hutchins, who says, I don't know anything about anything. I was just standing here being sheriff. I didn't have anything to do with my corona. I'm an innocent woman, sheriff. Really? Give me a break. Now, don't break my legs. Just give me a break. So all this leads to your D.U.I. Can we see those video? Is it time to show those video of the? Get ready for that. We'll go on. Go ahead.
One of the things that's going on in Orange County in what's called or been termed in the media, the Orange County criminal justice state of crisis. That was by 33 top legal scholars, including Chemerinsky, Gil Garcetti, former retired prosecutor from L.A.
And several that are professors at schools of law and things like that.
Yes.
I talked to one and he said, William, it's far worse. It's far worse than what the media, that article you read. And I said, well, you want to enlighten me? You want to come on film? No, I don't want to go on film. Why not? Well, I'm talking to the FBI. Well, they're not going to do anything. I told them, they're not going to do anything. He said, no, not the local FBI. They're already decided to wink, nod out of this.
Yeah, the local don't want to.
The local FBI's, they're involved in it. They got dirty paws with Tony Rackauckus, I believe.
Where does he think they get him from a different external?
So they're coming from Washington, D.C., and the local FBI in Orange County don't know it yet. They're being investigated. The FBI locally is being investigated by a special task force, and Trump has not announced anything about this. This is probably the first time anybody. So anyway, that professor said, William, I don't say anything. I said, well, that's why I do a show. Why? What do you want me to do? Do a show and say something might be happening and so might say something to somebody? I mean, what's wrong with just telling the people the truth of what's going on? But this is why there is so much pressure now to get rid of Trump, to get him under investigation.
Sure.
And I didn't vote for Trump. But if Trump's a good guy, he's got something he can do right now that will prove he's a good guy. Can you guess what it is, Gar?
What is that? What is that, William?
He could take a piece of paper and say, I give full pardon to Ed Brown of New Hampshire, who's sitting in a jail for refusing to pay his voluntary income tax. And I give full pardon to his wife, Dr. Elaine, for aiding and abetting him in living in his house privately and bothering nobody. He could give them a pardon. Then he could really prove he's got guts. Come on, Trump, are you listening? You could pardon the Bundy Six that are still being held in prison, in a private prison outside Pahrump, Nevada, the CCA. And you could give a full pardon to all the militia that came to defend his grazing rights. And then you could ask, and I know this is really pushing it, you could ask your Attorney General Sessions to bring charges against the Bureau of Land Management executives and all the hired cowboys that killed and stole their cattle, and bring criminal charges against the BLM. That would show, Trump, you're for we the people. Because all the Bundys were doing was raising veggies, melons, and cattle for people to eat, and they turned that into a crime. That would convince me that Trump is really trying to make America great again. But he hasn't done it yet. All he's done is one little thing, and it's a good thing. He took some power away from the D.C. BLM national office and said, I'm going to put that bit of power in the regional office for the regional Bureau of Land. That ain't good enough, Mr. Trump. You need to pardon not only Ed and Elaine Brown from, and he's still sitting in jail, I believe, like over 10 years. And I was the last person to interview Ed Brown in his home in New Hampshire. You need to give them full pardons. That'll send a strong message to the bank gangsters who are getting ready to destroy this nation. And then pardon all Bundy Six, pardon all the militia, even the ones that haven't been indicted, said just blanket pardon to everybody, including the 400 that stayed in St. George, Utah, waiting to eradicate the BLM. They never came down to the Bunkerville showdown, but they said, and I have this guy's quote burned in my brain, if one Bundy dies, there will be 20 dead BLM agents across this country for every Bundy that dies. And they were gathered up in St. George, just waiting to swoop down, because they were convinced. These people came from Tennessee, they came from all over the country, and said, one Bundy dies, you're going to lose 20 BLM agents for every one. And they were ready to clean out the St. George BLM. I mean, a whole lot of innocent people just sitting there not doing anything. Would have just had someone bust in the door and shoot them dead in their office. Last time I saw that happen, Gar, you know where that was?
Where was that?
That was up in San Francisco. And I've been meaning to do a show about this. This little Greek guy had a couple of restaurants, was doing really good in L.A. Then he and his wife got divorced. And his wife hired this law firm which had a lot of gay attorneys up in San Francisco. And they just ripped him to shreds. They left that Greek guy who worked his whole life, left him with nothing. I mean, he had nothing. Took everything away, everything went to the wife, and he got all the bills for both sides, his attorney, their attorney. And he did something that, to me, said the justice system is so rotten that there is no alternative but what he did. You know what he did?
What did he do?
He walked into their office. I don't know what kind of machine gun he used. He walked into the and just started mowing down attorneys, receptionists, coffee girls, anybody he could see. Just mowed them down.
Wow.
And you didn't even remember that. It made the news for about a half a day, and then it was like silence. Sure, they killed him, but they'd taken everything from him. He had nothing left. And he said, okay, I know who the bad guys are. They're those guys in that law firm. I'm going to go there, and I'm going to rake them a new one. And he did it with bullets. And yeah, he died. They got him. And the sad thing of that is that there were some innocent receptionists, gals that were just, hired on, didn't know what had happened in court, and they died too.
Collateral
Damage. And,
tragic.
To me, that's when the Civil War in America started. That was the first act of civil war against a corrupt, mafia-style bar association that is worldwide. We need to rid America of the bar association completely. Now I think we'd like to take a look at your videos because that's pretty heavy. Your videos don't seem so heavy now.
Well, that's okay. Well, absolute unconstitutional absolute immunities have really contributed to the corruption that's leading to all this.
If I'd been president, that Greek man that killed all those guys, I would have written him a full pardon, except for the innocent receptionists. But for the attorneys he killed that screwed him, twisted the law, lied to the court, got the crooked judges to push it through, full pardon for them. But for the innocent, what you call collateral damage, I wouldn't have given him a pardon. I would have given him commuted to life, which for him I think probably would have been another 5 or 6 years because he was already an old Greek man.
Well, there's too many tragedies like that going on,
But that's the beginning of civil war, Gar. When the cops are crooked, the judges are crooked, the attorneys know the judges are crooked and know they can buy them off and do buy them off, and there's no accountability because we the people have no representation. There is not one person. I don't even pay any attention who my state assemblyman or state senators, because the last time I talked to him, it was a Republican. I made an appointment 2 months in advance. I showed up, and he wasn't there. And his second assistant said, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wagener. He had more important business. He left. Well, that tells me I have no importance, and I was already doing a TV show. I had no importance. He didn't want to hear what I had to say about anything. He didn't care. He gets his corporate donations. He runs for his seat in the assembly. He doesn't care nobody in government cares what you or I think or care as long as you buy the corporate media lies. That's why that Greek guy said, got nothing left to lose. Lock and load, lock and load, knock, knock, open the door. Brrr. Okay, he got his justice. It cost him his life. But Thomas Jefferson said years ago.
Well, some desperation in there.
Well, everything was stolen from him. Everything, just because he wanted a divorce or his wife wanted a divorce. Divorce should not lead to massive slaughter of people in office buildings. But the crooked bar association attorneys have made it so miserable to fight for your children or fight to get a divorce. They made it so miserable that Greek man, I can't even remember his name, just walked into that San Francisco office and brrr, mowed him down.
Horrific.
He didn't go after cops. He didn't go after the bailiffs. He didn't even go after the judge. But he knew exactly where to find his wife's attorneys and that law firm, and he just eliminated them. Now, I'm not saying that's right, but if we had a functioning Article III court system, which we do not have, that maybe wouldn't have happened.
If we had our legal system is very dysfunctional at best.
And they're trying to push people to do these things. Your government, your bar association wants violence. Ka-ching, ka-ching, because it means more lawyers are going to get employed. Whether they take it out of your estate or they take it out of the taxpayer's estate, it's just more employment. That's why even defense attorneys don't really get upset when they see terrible acts of violence. I'll go defend that guy. They're going to pay me thousands of dollars. Maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Anyway, let's take a look at these rather benign. Okay. You want to explain what we're going to see here in this video?
Yes. I was politically targeted, and without probable cause or basis, I was arrested for a first DUI on January 12, 2012. And the MVAR's C.H.P. audio video, which is designed once it's activated for a law enforcement action to capture everything and hear everything through to the end of the enforcement action, which would be at booking, from the time that you start pursuit through the arrest or any action all the way to booking. It was withheld as a Brady violation or withholding of exculpatory evidence for 3 years until Kavanoki Law Firm, senior managing attorney, found it hidden in the Orange County DA's file, which was years after they secretly destroyed the blood evidence, because I was actually a very low BAC with no motor skills impairment. I was 0.034 and descending in blood alcohol. I have my own breathalyzer. I'm an expert in this field. I know I don't get behind the wheel impaired at all.
BAC stands for what?
Blood alcohol content. Okay. And I founded, Trans Biotech co-founded that DUI tragedy prevention company. I started Noble Action to reduce DUI tragedy as a 501c3. I was chairman of Citizens for Safer Highways and worked with Senator Dick Ackerman and Senator Joe Dunn to bring pilot programs in to help use technology more effectively to reduce the tragedy on the highway without offending civil rights or people's liberty, because I'm very much a civil libertarian.
You know how we can do that?
How?
Everybody, have the government cancel our war, cancel all our war plans, all our military spending for 6 months, buy every American a Tesla. Tesla has a system where you just plug in the address, it'll drive you there. And it'll also guide the car. You don't even have to touch the wheel. It'll take you home. You can be stone drunk. And if the address is in, you push the button, it'll drive you home.
Okay. Well,
so we may just cancel the war and buy everybody a Tesla.
Well, responsible technology. If we can keep technology under control and use it for good, that's the challenge. Now, what's going to be shown here is a 10-second or 11-second first clip called Fragment 1, of which should be 7 fragments. We should have no fragments at all. We should have one continuous when they activate the camera.
Yeah.
The cops, all the way to the end, and then it's burned onto a disc.
So you can see everything.
And you should be able to see everything.
Okay.
In this case,
what happened?
3 fragments showed up buried 3 years later, discovered by Kavanoki Law Firm, hidden from the defense while they kept trying to take me to trial, railroad me without this valuable evidence that showed sober driving, sober behavior, sober speaking, sober responsiveness to commands, and so forth. It showed perfect parking. It showed exiting the car like a sober person, gestures, everything. And they hid this because the crime lab had doctored up Bill Dare, who's a crime lab analyst, who's the favorite for Tony Rakakis and the sheriff's department, seems to make all those tough cases. When they come around, somehow he comes up with that evidence they need to obtain the convictions. He doctored up a 0.15 severe intoxication blood test result. They secretly destroyed my blood evidence without telling the defense.
Okay, so what are we going to see?
So what we're going to see here is the first frag that they turned over, which is 2 cars going by a parked C.H.P. on the 55 freeway.
Okay.
And mine is the second car. I don't know how it came across in years. So there's the parked C.H.P. looking northbound on the 55 freeway in Orange County.
Okay.
And see how it starts when the C.H.P. officer is not pursuing those 2 cars?
I didn't see much of anything.
Can you play it one more time? I know it's hard.
We can play it.
Just play it again. They're parked on the side of the road. They said they used a reverse radar and registered my car at 89 miles an hour on radar. But we should have had it all on film when it went right by to identify the car and the radar.
I don't see anything moving.
I know, because the police cut and diced the video to make sure you don't see it. But you can see in the video, if you observe it, that both cars are going the speed limits.
Yeah.
They weren't pursuing. Because the first thing they do, if you turn on the radar, and you're there to catch people for speeding or DUI at nighttime. As soon as that car goes by and you go, hey, we got a reading of excessive speeding, if that was true, and it wasn't true, then they had testified that they have their motor running and that they immediately pursue so they can get right on them in the rear.
Of course.
Okay? They didn't pursue. You can see in that
this
clip.
is going to make me drink. I'm
Drink the water.
I'm going to start drinking.
Drink the water. Don't drink, and certainly don't drink and drive appreciably impaired. But here's the point. So
this is getting to me. I'm starting to drink on camera. This is really bad.
Now, what happened is you notice that the video stops.
Yeah.
Right? We don't see the officers take off even belatedly to pursue my car.
Here's the second shot.
It's vanished. Well, here's the thing. The second one is called Frag 2, and it's the most important one. Because I'm doing a documentary film called Boomerang, the movie on my experience, and I'm going to post these videos in their entirety for review so that you can verify what I'm telling you is true. Right. But what happened is we don't have Frag 2. But let me explain what's on Frag 2.
Well, let's go to your chart on the other camera.
Yeah, let's use the chart. And it's important to understand that this is routine, that police and prosecutors, as a prosecutorial team in Orange County in particular, but it happens everywhere. It's an epidemic, as Judge Kaczynski of the Ninth Circuit and their panel have identified, that this goes on all the time where they just, without account, without any threat of consequences at all, they just withhold the evidence that they have. And what's interesting to note about the MVARS technology, which everyone knew about except me, years into this I had to finally investigate the technology and how it works. What C.H.P. does is that they get the entire footage for the whole unit, no matter who's the driver, and they upload all their data into their computer systems, and those are available by passcodes to the various levels of C.H.P. hierarchy, superiors. At the end of each shift, the C.H.P. officers have to mark and burn a disk for their shift only of what they captured regarding arrests, enforcement actions. Okay. In this case, C.H.P. and the DA knew this for years, that C.H.P. had the entire exculpatory video of the entire enforcement action, but they went under oath and through U.S. mail, and I have these documents, they multiple times lied under penalty of perjury.
Which document are you talking about?
I'll show you the ones.
You're talking about this one?
No. That's the U.S. mail fraud by Tony Rikakis, mailed from Palm Desert, California.
Really? Why is that mail fraud?
Well, they're out there. No. Because the document itself is a fraud instrument for charges that were never filed, never existed. That's an order of notice to appear in answer to charges that never existed. They were phantom. So I go to court and I plead to phantom charges, so it's a bogus charge. And I find out later, as I'm going in this bogus case, I've never entered a plea to the case.
And he's using it from the Jamboree Road address of the DA, Jamboree Road. That's where they had the 1956 Boy Scout Jamboree. Shame on you.
Well, and it was
using this sacred land where the Boy Scouts had a jamboree, and you do this kind of fraud, Tony. Shame on you. But Tony, I give you equal time. Come on the show.
Well, it was sent from. Look at the mark is on the main office where Tony is.
Yeah, run them all.
He mailed
them all up there.
And he mailed it from Palm Desert, California.
From Palm Desert.
It was retro dated for phantom charges that never existed that I respond to and entered a plea to something. Well, which one are we going to go with here?
I just run them all up there. So.
Okay. Well, this is really critical. I think we should go with the pink.
The pink one.
The pink document.
Okay.
So that you can understand. This is called the temporary driver's license issued to somebody who's arrested for DUI, and it's sworn. It's a sworn document, and it cannot be altered after the fact, after it's sworn and issued. This is a copy of the original. The officer in the arrest report said he arrested me on officer's opinion at a below .08 called an A-count DUI, which can only be done under very unique circumstances because normally a DUI is .08 or greater. That's what the public's taught or thinks. Notice in this box, do we have the pink sheet up?
We got the pink one up. There it is.
Okay, the pink sheet. If you look to the top left, the officer didn't mark .08 or greater blood alcohol content on the form, and he also denied me a breathalyzer, which is called the pass to the right.
He didn't check off any of them.
No, because there was no blood, there was no intoxication. He smelled no alcohol, detected no alcohol. He did an HGN test.
Well, he screwed up in trying to frame you.
They falsely arrested me. I'm just telling you point blank. I don't want to get into the details, but
they arrested you anyway.
It was a politically motivated one, and it was done by a phone call.
Oh, Gar, I wouldn't know anything about political motivated
Oh, I'm
things.
sure. I know you've been through
I
it.
wouldn't know anything about that. Oh, way back in what, 2002, when I was running for county supervisor, wasn't I arrested for a phantom warrant for my arrest that would never materialize, but I lost the election.
Right, and it succeeded in its purpose.
It did its purpose. They arrested me just days before the election,
Yeah.
where I was leading in the polls. I've been on local CBS and other things. I was leading in the polls, and then boom, I get arrested. They smear me in the front page of the newspaper, put it all over television, and then I lose the election. Oh, I wouldn't know anything about political motivated arrests.
Well,
it's so common.
You got it before me, and I got it. When I got it, then I couldn't believe
it happened
No,
either.
I couldn't believe it because
I couldn't either. I said, no, this can't happen in America.
Listen,
yeah, it does.
I had
every day.
one Budweiser just because a guy didn't want to drink alone. I was drinking water the whole night. I was visiting with John Lackey of the California Angels, who was an acquaintance of mine, and Jared Weaver was there.
Look, you got me drinking on camera again.
You know what? And I'm sober. I'm playing pool. The reason I was out late, if you see the timeline on there, is because I was insomnia for 2 days before. I couldn't sleep anyway, so I go play pool. Hopefully that put me to sleep. So, mistake in the streetwise being out in the bewitching hours, but I was driving with no impairment whatsoever down the street safely. And if you saw Frag 2, which we will get you on my website.
I got one question.
You'll see.
I got one question.
Sober driving, sober behavior.
I'll buy that, but how did they pick your car out
I'm going to explain
from all the other cars? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that they could spot one car and say, oh, that's the one. Car's in that one.
No, you saw the two cars going by side in that video.
Yeah, I did see that.
And they were not speeding, and they were both safe.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was the second car in lane 2.
How did they pick you out?
They got a phone call from Goat Hill Tavern in Costa Mesa, where John Lackey was, and the officer's phone, Officer Bradley Hopkins, picks up his cell phone, and I'm sober, but it was a call. Remember, I went to Fiji, and I had that dirty trick stuff happening, and there was a number of motivations, and I'm not here to prove that they did this, but I know they did it. No, he didn't do it. Lackey's a good guy. He's a friend. No.
He tipped off?
No, Lackey didn't do anything.
Okay, how did they know it was you?
Because they identified the car. I left only 3 minutes earlier in Costa Mesa, and that was right off when you get out of Costa Mesa on the highway.
And they knew you'd be going up 55.
Look, they called. They made the report and said, hey, keep an eye out for this particular car and model.
Who called? Who called?
That's what we need to find out. I asked to subpoena the officers for 5 years. I said, subpoena the dispatch records, which is normal to do, and the logs. And I said, subpoena Bradley Hopkins' cell phone records, because at Frag 2, which we were going to show at 10:08, he gets a follow-up call from the false reporter, the false D.U.I. reporting party, whoever that may be. It could be a cop. It could be intelligence. It could be one of the bar guys who was just pissed off at something that I have no idea about. I wasn't misbehaving. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Whatever the case is.
So you thought, no problem.
No problem. Why would I worry?
I'll go to trial. I'll be exonerated.
Well, no, I didn't even think I'd be arrested. So here's the thing. At 10:08, he gets a call. I'm out of the car. There's no alcohol, no smell or detection of alcohol. Okay? And what happens is you hear the ring, ring, ring of the cell phone at Hopkins because he's near the inside of the car. And he picks up the phone, and he's talking with the guy, and the guy is saying, you can't hear what he's saying, but you can tell by the reaction of Hopkins, he's saying, he's going, oh, I don't know if the guy was DUI or not DUI. It's a fishing expedition. He was trying to harm me. And then Hopkins goes, oh, he's a take-back. We haven't even done the DUI investigation yet. There's no alcohol, there's no probable cause, there's no FSTs, and there's no breathalyzer. And he goes, we're going to take him back to the station and book him. Because he was catering to the caller. The law enforcement was catering to whoever was calling and wanted to make them happy.
Right.
Okay. So I said, this subpoena, we subpoenaed Goat Hill Tavern's video, CCTV. Twice in 5 years, they did not respond to subpoena duces tecum, and the court wouldn't enforce that. It has me drinking water for 4 hours, except for that one beer an hour before, which is out of your system in an hour anyways, one Budweiser.
So you're saying they're falsifying the records, and the judges the judges are
the
going
judges would not enforce the subpoena violations to show this, and me with John Lackey and this whole thing. So what happened, and this is I don't want to get ramped up and get down this road because it's too much for the audience. There's a time and a place to be telling
We're already
this.
ramped up.
But I can tell you this, boom.film.com.
Let's get
and I'll post them up there.
Let's get right now. I'm going to hold my phone up, put it on speaker. She also is having trouble getting people to do the job in the same county you're in, Orange County.
Well,
and this gal,
widespread and pervasive corruption's everywhere, but Orange County is really taking